Hello everyone, today I am going to introduce the life cycle of chocolate. So, how about the life cycle of chocolate itself? In this video we will cover an introduction of chocolate, life cycle stages of chocolate, potential environmental impact, the mitigation, and lastly is conclusion of the chocolate. Firstly is introduction of chocolate. Do you know what is chocolate? Chocolate is a popular sweet treat made from cocoa beans that are grown primarily in tropical regions. The beans are harvested, fermented, dried, and roasted before they are ground into a paste called chocolate liquor. This chocolate liquor is then further processed to produce a variety of chocolate products such as cocoa powder, chocolate bars, and chocolate confections. Where did cocoa beans originate? The history of chocolate dates back to ancient Mesoamerica, where the cocoa tree was first cultivated by the Maya and Aztec civilizations. When the Spanish arrived in Mesoamerica in the 16th century, they were introduced to chocolate and brought it back to Europe. Part 2. When the Spanish arrived in Mesoamerica in the 16th century, they were introduced to chocolate and brought it back to Europe. By the 17th century, chocolate had become popular across Europe and was being used in a variety of desserts, including cakes, pastries, and ice cream. There are 3 types of cocoa that we can identify with their colors and size, which is the first is Criollo, second is Forastero, and last is Trinitario. So after we know about the types of cocoa, after this we will learn about life cycle stages of chocolate. There are 6 stages for life cycle stages of chocolate, which is the first one raw material extraction, number 2 is harvesting, 3 processing, 4 distribution, 5 consumption, and the lastly is end of life. The first step to produce chocolate is raw material extraction. Single cocoa trees can yield approximately 2 to 4 kilograms of cocoa beans per year, an organic crop, and have various of cocoa pod. Second is harvesting. Cocoa trees can produce between 300 and 3,000 pods per year, and each pod containing around 20 to 40 cocoa beans. Next is processing. Involves several steps to transform the harvesting beans into cocoa products such as fermentation, drying, roasting, grinding, refining, and conching. Number 4 is distribution. Local collection and consolidation, transport to exporting ports, export and import procedures based on different countries, regions, and market participants. Next is consumption. Chocolate is consumed by individuals in various forms such as bars, cakes, cookies, and ice cream. The chocolate is usually purchased from retailers or consumed in restaurants, cafes, or at home. And the last stages is end of life. This may involve disposal through recycling, composting, or landfill. Ideally, chocolate packaging should be recycling or composted to reduce impact of the environment. Next is potential environmental impact of chocolate. The first thing is global warming potential. The global warming potential of chocolate can vary depending on various factors such as the ingredients used, the production methods, and the transportation methods. Cocoa production and processing are responsible for greenhouse gas emissions such as carbon dioxide and methane, which contribute to global warming. Number 2 is water quality. Chocolate production and consumption can have an indirect impact on water quality through the use of water in cocoa farming and processing, as well as the disposal of chocolate waste. Cocoa farming requires a significant amount of water for irrigation, and improper water management practices can lead to water pollution through the use of fertilizer and pesticides. Next is soil degradation. Cocoa farming for chocolate production can contribute to soil degradation, particularly in regions where cocoa cultivation is intensive and the use of synthetic fertilizer and pesticides is common. Intensive cocoa farming practices can deplete the soil of nutrients, leading to decreased soil fertility and increased soil erosion. Use of synthetic fertilizer and pesticides can also lead to soil degradation by reducing soil biodiversity and altering soil structure and pH. The last is loss of biodiversity. The cultivation of cocoa for chocolate production can contribute to the loss of biodiversity, particularly in regions where cocoa farming is intensive and involves the clearing of natural habitats. Cocoa farming can lead to the loss of forested areas, which are important habitats for a diverse range of plant and animal species. The use of synthetic fertilizer and pesticides can also impact biodiversity by reducing soil biodiversity and harming non-target organisms such as insects and birds. Next, we move to mitigation strategies for chocolate production, which uses sustainable sourcing. Chocolate manufacturers can support sustainable cocoa farming practices by sourcing cocoa beans from farmers who use sustainable practices such as certified by Rainforest and Alliance. Second is combining agroforestry. It involves the cultivation of cocoa trees alongside other crops such as banana, maize, or cassava. This helps to reduce the impact of cocoa farming on deforestation, soil degradation, and loss of biodiversity. Third is implement shade-grown cocoa. Shade-grown cocoa is grown under the canopy of existing trees rather than in clearing. This helps to preserve biodiversity by providing habitat for a variety of plant and animal species. And lastly is reduce the production of waste. Chocolate manufacturers can implement waste reduction strategies such as using compostable packaging or recycling cocoa bean shells to reduce the environmental impact of chocolate production. In conclusion, the LCA of chocolate shows that the production and consumption of chocolate products have significant environmental impacts, particularly related to cocoa bean production and processing. However, there are opportunities to reduce these impacts through more sustainable practices.